Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to a new live stream episode. Hey, I've got some great news to share with you today. Because as you guys know, I kind of like relaunched this live stream format a bit nice. So we started a few months ago. Is actually started with some amazing tech talks, and you might be familiar with one of the Patreon polling that I did, and a lot of the community replies from you guys were like, "Hey, you want to get into some news and training topics for the live streams?" And I thought this would be a great opportunity to make those live streams and split the topics into tech talks, so where I cover on a very specific topic in the HomeLab or tech space that I just want to talk about, share my experience with you, but also cover some interesting news and interesting changes in the tech industry that might affect us HomeLab nerds and tech enthusiasts to at least some extent. And so for today, I've prepared a list of some interesting topics that I want to go through with you. But before, I have some exciting news to share. We are almost at 200,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, which is completely insane. So I just want to say thank you so much. So I'm pretty sure we are reaching the 200,000 subscribers in the next days. It's absolutely insane. I still can't believe it. I still just watched at my at the letter I got from YouTube, signed by the CEO of YouTube, for reaching the 100,000 subscriber goal, which was, I even don't know so when this was, maybe like 1.5 years ago or so. And that's really insane. And now we're actually doubled the numbers, which is totally insane. I still can't believe it. I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching the videos. Thanks for all the interactions, liking, subscribing, commenting. It's absolutely insane, and it's such a great help for me. And yeah, that gives me the opportunity to continue doing this project, and I just love to share my thoughts. I just love to share my experience and all the stuff that I'm learning through my HomeLab projects, through any tech stuff that I do, that I tinker with at home. And it's really, really amazing. So thank you all for your support. It is absolutely crazy. So this is really nice. Thanks, by the way, for jumping into the live stream. I see a lot of people here. Hey, great to see you all. Alexandru, hey, yeah, good to see you, mate. You're always like one of my recent followers on X. Yeah, I see a lot of your comments. And Christoph, hey, good to see you as well. You're nearly in all of the live streams. You're taking part in those live streams. That's amazing. And of course, to any other of you guys being here, thanks for leaving a message in the chat. That is really, really nice. Thanks for being here, and thanks for your support. I'm really happy about this change. And no, I'm not a full-time YouTuber now. I still have my main job that I just need to go through some really busy tasks. So this week and the last weeks were just crazy, honestly. But hey, whenever I have time to work on my HomeLab projects, I just enjoy it so much. So it's really nice. Yeah, well, maybe at some day I will become a full-time YouTuber. But I had the discussion with my wife this week, and we were thinking about what that change would mean for us, especially for income and stuff. And honestly, well, I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite there comfortably, like switching jobs and so on. So I still will continue working for Sophos at least for another year, and then we will see what the status next year and see how it's going. But that is kind of like the decision for going forward. And I just love the team at my main job. So I really enjoy working with the guys from Sophos. I'm in a really great team. So that's why I haven't made the decision yet to go full-time. And also, what you need to consider, I'm getting a lot of insight from the professional IT and tech space that I would lose if I would be a full-time YouTuber. So that's kind of like the downside to it, because currently I get a lot of insight into how to work with enterprise companies, how things are going in cybersecurity space and so on. And that is really, really great for career development and stuff. So that's why, yeah. I also have a lot of freedom to work on the personal projects that I do from time to time. So that's not going to change. But of course, I got some help. Yeah, just recently, I hired somebody to help me with editing the videos. So I have a video editor now. I have someone who's helping me with a thumbnail creation. And I also have a brand agency that helps me with managing sponsorships and all of that crap. I don't want to have to do anything with sponsorships. This is really like all of the payment and contracting things. And this is just hell. And if you're living in Germany, all the tax stuff and paying taxes and I don't want to have to do with any of this contractual stuff. I just want to focus on making great videos. And anything else I try to get some help with, and that has been a great change for me the recent months. And I'm actually, with my video editor, we are getting into the right mood. So there is a great workflow that we agreed on, and it's working for us both. So that's fine. Thank you all for your positive messages in the chat. That it is absolutely insane. Thank you so much. I'm going through this. So that's it. I also wanted to tell you there will be no live stream in 2 weeks. So just as a reminder, we had planned this scheduling every 2 weeks. I'm doing a live stream. In 2 weeks, I'm out. I'm on vacation. I'm flying to Mallorca in Spain and lying on the beach with my wife and son. This will be the first holiday where we are flying with a plane, which is something I'm really a bit afraid of. But hey, I think our son is old enough to actually do those kind of holidays and flying in a plane and doing this vacation thing. And yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm really excited about it. So there will be no live stream in 2 weeks. I'm sorry. And there will be no video that week. But hey, it's just 1 week. Then I'm back and I can start working again. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, I will enjoy that time. So maybe I'm sharing some pictures on Instagram or maybe TikTok. I don't know if you're following me there. If you don't, well, then please do. I probably will make some pictures at some point. Yeah, it's really cool. And yes, Mallorca is a very German destination. Yeah, it's kind of like everyone, like it feels like everyone is speaking German. in Mallorca, it's really like a. Can I say this? Is it like a German colony, something like that? So, but yeah, a lot of German people there, and yeah, it's kind of a nice place. So I've been there with my family years and years ago, and I will enjoy that time. I think it's gonna be great. It's like Britain and Spain. Yeah. Yeah. Another Bundesland. Yeah, actually it is, yeah. Well, at least Mallorca, that's better than Thailand. So honestly, it's let's not get into those topics, right? As a German guy. But hey, let's do that. Actually, I picked a place in Mallorca where it is very family friendly, because I know there are parts of the island like Ballermann, which is not a place where I would like to go with my family. So that's no discussion there. So it's going to be a very relaxed space where I hope everybody's nice and very family focused, right? So we picked a hotel that has a place for children to play and pool and stuff, and yeah, that's gonna be cool. Okay, great. So let's get into tech. I'm gonna get distracted the whole day talking about this, but anyway, it's a fine topic to talk about as well. I can definitely tell all the German guys in the chat right now. So yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, guys. So let's get into topics. So I prepared a list of technical topics that I want to talk about, and as I'm switching those topics for live stream every other live stream, so that means we're actually doing one news and trending live stream in a month, which kind of means like this is not like the latest and greatest changes, right? So I have 1 month to collect all of the items that are changed or that are worth mentioning in a live stream going through. So it will be a lot of stuff that you might be already knowing or I already heard like a few weeks ago from other creators or other places. That's totally fine. But of course, there also will be some latest news that just recently got released. I just collecting those items in a list. And before I get into the first news that happened in the recent weeks, I just like to know, so if you have anything that you want me to cover in the live stream, so it might be a technical topic or might it be a news that you like to be covered in the live stream, news and training, please send me a message on Discord or put it in the discussions chat on Discord, so I will add it to my list and talk about it in the next live stream, which will be in 6 weeks. Yeah. All right. Okay, let's get into it. And that's like the first. It's a hot topic that actually just happened like a month ago. But again, I haven't talked about this yet, and I thought I might address it in a live stream because I didn't want to make a video just solely on that topic, because it's really something that has gone through the tech space. I think everybody has talked about it already, but I haven't. And I just want to give you my 2 cents on this and what is my perspective on this change. It's kind of like a pretty big announcement that HashiCorp joins IBM to accelerate, how they are saying this here in the original press release, accelerate multi-cloud automation, whatever that means. So we will find out in a few seconds. But that's kind of a big announcement that shaked like the entire tech space, right? I mean, HashiCorp is a pretty big player. You know this as the vendor of Terraform, HashiCorp Vault, Nomad, maybe not the biggest project, but definitely Terraform, Vagrant. We've covered a lot of those tools in the past here on this channel. I also use it for my tutorials. A lot of this is based on Terraform, and it's one of those tools, those essential tools for me personally to that I use in my HomeLab stack, right? And it's a very crucial and critical part of my infrastructure is called utilities, right? And so this announcement that IBM now acquired HashiCorp, well, I don't really know. They're saying like for how much money they acquired it. I think you can Google it. I'm not really like so deeply invested into this topic, but you could definitely say with all of the recent changes that were happening in the tech space, like IBM, like Red Hat, the license changes from HashiCorp on Terraform, that they moved to a business source license instead of an open source license and those kind of things. This made many people worried and afraid of things are going to change after this acquisition. Like if IBM acquires HashiCorp, are they going to change the company? Are they going to change the product? Are they going to add more changes to the licensing and stuff, right? Oh, thanks, Christoph, for looking it up. $6.4 billion US. This is crazy. That's really crazy. I mean, sure, it can even go higher. You can always go higher, but for a tech company, it's already a lot, right? I think what was the Sophos acquisition from? Just compare it. It's an offer to acquire Sophos for, what was that? 35 billion investment, more than 5 million commitment. I don't really know the number. What was that? Here it is. Enterprise value of approximately $3.9 billion US. So that was when Thoma Bravo acquired Sophos. So you can actually see like this is a similar big deal in the tech space. And of course, many people are afraid of those changes. So what will happen once this acquisition is done? Will IBM force HashiCorp to make more license changes? It's actually one interesting thought that I heard about. I heard on Reddit someone was saying, did HashiCorp actually make the license change to Terraform because they wanted to be acquired by IBM? Or did IBM tell HashiCorp in advance that they have to change their license to get the acquisition done? Who knows what's going on behind the curtain? Who knows that? But my 2 cents on this is, so this is kind of like a change that has a pretty, not like a direct impact. So we haven't seen any direct changes since the acquisition. But it definitely falls into a pattern that we have seen recently with other tools changing licenses. Ansible changing things, Red Hat changing things to their a distribution licensing model and stuff, right? And this somehow falls into this category of worrying changes, so that we actually should think more critical about this. Is this actually a good thing or not? Of course, in the original press release, they sell it as a big positive thing, right? So that you can see, you can read all of this stuff, like why they do this. So HashiCorp's portfolio of products has grown significantly since we started the company. We continue to work with our community and customers to identify their challenges in adopting multi-cloud infrastructure. This is like this marketing jargon and terminology that you find in all of these press releases, so it's not a big surprise what they will do and what they're doing. I think this is kind of like, there are just like 2 things to keep in mind here. And I know once this got released, or once it got published, a lot of content creators or people in the tech space were raging about this, about like usually the same guys that were raging about all of the other license changes that happened to Terraform and Ansible and all that stuff. And of course, people are afraid of, will this affect the open source enterprise space, or will this affect open source in general? What will happen to those products? Will IBM change open source and move to a more closed source model and stuff? That is kind of like a question. Of course, no one can answer that. Who knows what will happen? But many people, or many tech, especially the open source advocates and open source fans, were really, really angry about this change. Also about the license changes HashiCorp introduced to Terraform before. And they were already predicting the end of open source in the enterprise space. Yeah. Honestly, I think I can understand where a lot of this is coming from. I can understand why people are angry and upset about something, because it feels like all those big tech companies are taking something away from us. They are taking something away from the community. But actually, the way, and those big tech companies are the evil companies that harm their users, that treat their community in a bad way and so on. But I see this kind of like in a different way, because if you have watched some of my older live streams, or when I've talked about those kind of topics, you probably know my standing on open source and those kind of things, especially in enterprise business. You know, my point of view is there is no such thing like an evil company, right? That is not in my world. It is not existing in my world. And the reason is, like, look, being good or evil, this is kind of like a human emotion, or like a human property, so to speak. It's not like companies are not humans, right? So companies don't act like humans. They're not good or bad. Ultimately, a company is like an organization of people, and which has the primary goal to make money, right? So they don't care about taking something away from you. They don't care about treating you bad. All they care about is they want to make money. They want to protect their investment. They want to protect their products. And that is what this is all about. This is kind of, in my opinion, and honestly, I don't have much understanding of this. I'm not an expert in this field, so take this with caution. But my assumption of this is why this is happening. This is kind of a pretty aggressive move from IBM and also HashiCorp to destroy competition, right? And this we have seen that with Terraform and Ansible as well, as they changed those license models because of the reason there were companies that were taking the open source developments from HashiCorp and bundling this in their own cloud service offering, right? Which is a direct competitive service to their own cloud offerings, something like Terraform Cloud, or Red Hat has the same problem with Ansible Tower and so on. So other companies are using their work, making their own offering, selling enterprise licenses to their customers without giving something back to the original developer of the tool, right? And that is the reason why those companies are thinking about, well, actually, there's kind of a shift from, is open source actually useful for those companies to enhance community development, to enhance innovation, or is the open source licensing actually hurting them and preventing those companies from making money with their own service offering? And I think this is what it's about. It's not about taking something away from the community and saying like, oh yeah, we need to go and each and every developer has to pay for a license. This is not what this is about. This is a change to build a foundation to control a certain space and to destroy competition, which is not a good thing. So I'm also concerned about this, but I think you should not look at this from the perspective of this is against the community. This is against the competitive companies that try to build a service offering on HashiCorp's products, on Red Hat-based products. Like, I could name some of those companies that might be affected by this. But if you're like a customer, or if you're a HomeLab user of HashiCorp's tools like Terraform, or the same is also true for Red Hat, well, this announcement should not worry you at all, right? So this is more like for the business space. If you're developing a somewhat competitive product to their cloud service offering, then you might be affected by those changes, and then that is something to be worried about. This also makes more sense now if you read this carefully and thinking about a multi-cloud automation platform. What the hell does that mean, right? So I see this as IBM wants to be the controlling company, or the company, the big player that controls the cloud service automation platforms, with Red Hat and Ansible in their portfolio, now adding HashiCorp's Terraform into their portfolio, and going against the competitors that use the open source tools, bundling that together in their own cloud service offering and selling this to enterprise customers. So they want to destroy this competition, right? And that's why you also see those when you're reading those lines in terms of when it comes to the community and the development. Let me just find where the hell they go in a bit more detail about that. Yeah, so here. They also say, like, when they first exposed to the public cloud as hobbyists experimenting with startup ideas, and later as professional developers building mission-critical application. And where is that part? I read it somewhere. I'm sorry. I'm not well prepared. I know this. Yeah, so this is like, the other stuff is just like this pure marketing stuff, yeah. Just like, for our customers and partners, this combination will enable us to go further and blah, blah, blah. Sure, okay, that's that. Here is it. We will continue to be deeply invested in the community of users and partners who work with HashiCorp today. So this is not, I don't see this as they're trying to destroy open source. This is more like, if they want to still continue to work with users, customers, developers, but they want to protect their investment, they want to protect their portfolio, and they want to control the market in that multi-cloud automation space. So if you're reading all of this, right, as a HomeLab user, as a tech enthusiast, should you care about this? Well, I think this is actually a development that we should follow carefully, because I think this is just the beginning. I will predict there will be future changes like this, and more enterprise companies will move to a different licensing model than open source, and moving more to a source available license to protect their investments. Because I think it has been easier for startup companies to take open source products, do their own stuff with it, and selling it. And this is where they want to go against it. Yeah. Ultimately, what it means for us as HomeLab users, as long as their tools continue to be source available, so you can actually look at the code, but you can't use it within your own service offerings and stuff, you can actually still continue using the tools. And the good thing about it is those tools with such a strong standing will be more relevant in the professional space. So when you're learning those tools, it's actually beneficial for you because you know something that is used as one of the go-to standards. When it comes to multi-cloud automation, you're going into a professional IT environment. And in most of the cases, you will probably see an application that is controlled by those big tech companies. Just like if you're into server administration, you have to know Windows Server, right? So there is no big alternative like Windows Server. There are a few Linux servers. In other spaces, Linux is more prominent than Windows, but in like Active Directory, it's still a big portion of the day-to-day administration work. And I see this development similarly happening with products like Ansible, like Terraform. It's actually good that we already focused on making tutorials about those important products. But as a developer or as a, you still need to be worried about, well, we will definitely see more changes like this in the future happening. And I also said, like, I think I had this discussion with you, Christoph, or somebody else on the Discord. Is this a reason to switch from Terraform to OpenTofu, or is this a reason to switch from any other source available license tool to another? And my standing on this is, well, I always focus on what is relevant in the industry, because I think teaching those products that are relevant in the industry has the most value for people that want to learn IT. And that's why I'm focusing on those bigger tools. And also, since it is free for us, well, we can still use it, and it's beneficial for us to use those tools. So we will just continue doing this. So there's no real reason why I think you should switch to another program, or we should switch HashiCorp products and go to another alternative. I don't think there's a reason to do that right now. If something changes, so if they try to let us developer pay for those tools, well, then it's going to be a different discussion, but that is not the case right now. So don't talk about future things that haven't happened yet, and we don't make a problem out of something that is speculation, right? So we will take a look at it once it gets a bigger problem. But yeah, something that you need to be aware of. And I know I spent too much time talking about this, but I hope it is valuable. And of course, yeah, please let me know what is your opinion on this. You can send a chat message. I already read a lot of comments from you guys, and yeah, I know a lot of people are concerned about it, and I totally get it. Anyway, I see it a bit more relaxed. I don't think this is a problem right now. Yeah. Yes, you are right, Christoph. Yeah. I think you can't really compare it to Broadcom with VMware, because VMware really did a nasty move. HashiCorp hasn't done that yet. But of course, we need to be aware of, if that ever happens, it becomes a different type of discussion, right? Okay, great. So let's move on to the next point. Let's talk about Surface laptops. This is something that just recently got announced, and of course, this was something like an alarm bell is ringing in my head when I read something like, oh, the new Surface laptops, this is the MacBook killer, right? So this popped up all in the news. So just if you haven't noticed, like Microsoft, they just announced a new Surface laptop. And Surface laptops were existing for a couple of years, and I think they were okay. If you needed a Windows-based laptop, yeah, you could get them. But honestly, it's like, I don't know. Honestly, I believe Microsoft is making the same mistake like they did with Xbox Kinect. It's kind of a weird comparison, I know. But it's like, if Microsoft thinks something is gonna be successful, it's the new big thing, that can sometimes be true. But in many, many cases, they're absolutely wrong with that prediction, right? And they had a lot of failures with something like that, like Windows phones, Xbox Kinect, that was predicted like, oh, this is going to be the future of gaming and stuff. And no. The same is going to be with the Copilot Plus, right? So I still believe, like, okay, AI is going to be a big impact in IT and tech, sure. But to just focus on this technology, I think this is another mistake where they need to be forced to shift back a bit, right? And say like, okay, yeah, it's a nice add-on to our Surface laptops. But just that they focus so much on Copilot, I think this is not ultimately a good decision. What is definitely a big difference, and I'm really more interested about, is like the processor in those laptops, because the Surface CPUs, they previously used Intel CPUs, and they had some development with ARM. Windows on ARM is still not a great, I don't know. Well, I still don't know why they say Intel Core processor here with the perfect everyday laptop. So this is the Surface. It's the Surface Laptop Go free. Yeah, but somewhere down here they're actually advertising something different. I don't know what's going on. Here you can see the Surface Laptop Studio 2, which is the 13th generation Intel i7. Then they have the Surface Laptop Go 3, which is also an Intel. What is really the interesting development is the Snapdragon X, which is like the newer processor of Qualcomm, which aims to replace Mac, or aims to go in a fight against Apple, right? And because Apple, they are a few years ahead with their own Apple Silicon development, but Snapdragon tries to close this gap and bring a powerful and efficient ARM CPU to Windows-based laptops. So that's kind of an interesting development. I also found some interesting benchmarks about this, and this is about the I think this is the NPU performance, the AI compute vision performance, and you can see that the Snapdragon X Elite is outperforming the MacBook Air Apple M3. So that is like, that was a headline on the news. That's why everybody said like, oh, the Surface laptop with the Snapdragon X Elite, this is the MacBook Air killer. And I said, yeah, okay, well, you're actually comparing your new flagship product with the cheapest MacBook that is out there, right? So what they should have done is, to go in a real fight against Apple, they should have compared the Snapdragon X Elite and Elite processor against the M3 Pro, or maybe even the M3 Max. And the M3 Max, that is my assumption, not seeing any of the benchmarks, but my assumption is Apple with the M3 Max and maybe even the M3 Ultra, it's destroying the Snapdragon X Elite. That's just my prediction. I might be wrong, but honestly, if they say, oh, our new flagship CPU is the M3 killer, yeah, look, this M3 CPU is the Apple's entry-level chip. Okay, right? So, well, congratulations. I still believe Apple is a few years ahead, and they will have to make huge development to actually be competitive to that. But yeah, that's just my personal assumption. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. Who knows that? Also, like, you still have the operating system problem, Windows on ARM, yeah, against macOS, which is also a few years ahead with their development, especially with their backwards compatibility with Rosetta and stuff. We will see how the operating system will perform, or what are the problems with Windows, especially some of the new updates they want to squeeze into the next version of Windows with Copilot Plus. And I read a few news about analyzing what's going on the screen, putting an AI analysis model through that, and yeah, who knows what's coming. We will see. Yeah, I think, Christoph, you're absolutely right. Actually, we're at a point where making a 10 or 20% increase of CPU power probably doesn't make a real world difference, right? I mean, we're at a time where CPUs are so fast enough they could handle most of the day-to-day workloads. No matter if it's the M3 in the MacBook Air or the M3 Pro, doesn't make a huge difference in the every day-to-day work, right? So but it definitely makes a difference when you're like a user that has to work with graphics design or video editing, those kind of things. So this is where you definitely see the performance gaps or the limitations of a CPU. And I'm telling you right now, I'm streaming from my Mac Mini with the M2 Pro. I wish I would have bought the Mac Studio, because this thing is actually scratching the limits of the hardware. So, but yeah, we will see what comes and how great the Surface laptops in the end will be. Actually, I'm really interested. I would just love to buy one of them just for trying out Windows again, see how WSL2 is performing and stuff, and how Windows on ARM is working for me. But yeah, it's like, and these are US prices. In Germany, this will definitely cost 1,500 euros, definitely. So maybe even more. It's a lot of money for a new laptop just for trying it out, right? And I think as macOS is now my main operating system, I'm so happy with it. I'm probably not going to change back to Windows, not anytime soon. But hey, who knows? Maybe in 2-3 years, I'm telling you something different that might happen. So yeah, we will see. But anything, that's kind of an interesting topic to know about. All right, so let's get into some of the other tech news. What you might be aware of is the new release of Ubuntu 24.04 LTS. So a new LTS release of Ubuntu has been released with some changes. Ultimately, I don't think there's anything very special about it. I mean, there are some pretty cool improvements they are mentioning here on the website, like performance improvements, the new Linux kernel 6.8. You actually would need to check the Linux kernel in that version to see whether there are interesting changes. Like you see there's nested KVM support for that specific architecture, or what has merged low latency kernel features into the default kernel, reducing kernel tasks, scheduling delays. Whatever that means in the real world. So I haven't done any benchmarks. I even haven't upgraded my servers yet, because I think like the 22.04 LTS version, that will be supported for many, many more years. So there's no hurry to upgrade to the latest Ubuntu release. And I also got some problems with my Terraform and Packer templates for this on Proxmox. So I need to find a solution to that and upgrade my templates so I can play around with this in some testing machines. However, yeah, it's kind of an interesting stuff. Please let me know in the chat if you have updated your Ubuntu servers already, or if they're still running on 22.04 LTS, or what else you're using. Just tell me in the chat. But I haven't upgraded my servers yet. I think there's no hurry. Especially when you're using Docker, I think this reduces the necessity to jump on each and every new Linux distro release. Yeah. Okay, so somebody in the chat said your work PC with Kubuntu upgraded haven't noticed any difference. Yeah, that would be my assumption, right? And sure, I know a lot of people are not using Ubuntu, but I think like it's interesting to follow those releases. And I definitely, when I start playing around with other Linux distros, something like Red Hat based distros, I probably will follow release cycles of those distros as well. Just need to give me a bit more time to familiarize myself with another one, because Ubuntu is still like the distro that I'm the most familiar with, and that probably won't change for quite some time. So it's good to keep in the loop for those releases, but honestly, I'm not too excited about it, as I'm not using Ubuntu on my work PC. So, however, one thing that might be interesting is new management tools for Ubuntu Desktop and WSL. So that might be interesting for people running Ubuntu in WSL. So, so that it kind of might be interesting. As you see, WSL now supports Cloud Init to enable image customization and standardization. But as I don't have a Windows system right now, and I can't really test anything like this, so I'm not too excited about this change, right? Yeah, I expect to upgrade. Okay. Yeah, by the way, that, John, that's actually a pretty good, tip that you shared. And there were times when I was working in support for Sophos, and we got a new major release of Sophos XG Firewall, from version 19 to version 20, for example. I always told my customers, okay, great, this is a GA release, so this is properly tested, you can upgrade. But if you're running this in a critical or productive environment, maybe give it a bit more time and wait for the major release, the MR1, or maybe even MR2, which is the updated release. So because if you're making big changes in a version like this, you will see a bunch of issues, right? And you don't want to be one of the early customers, the first ones that have those problems. So you probably want to migrate over to it when the first minor release version, the first patch is out. And that's going to be the safe route for you. So no hurry to jump on this new release. Maybe give it a bit more time for the minor release to version 24.04.1 once that is out, and a few of those early day bugs and problems are fixed, and then you're ready to go. All right. Yeah. Perfect. Let's go to the next update. So you can see I got a few updates on my list. This is actually a pretty big change that I wanted to address. I actually wanted to make a video on this, but actually I decided to step away from it because I thought this would be a perfect spot to cover in a live stream, and maybe I can clip a bunch of those, or I can create a few clips of this live stream. Maybe, I don't know, who knows that. But if I got some time. But this is a pretty big change, and I know a lot of the people in our community are using the Traefik reverse proxy, maybe on the Docker deployment or on Kubernetes deployments. And now the version 3 got the GA release, so that means like all of the Docker tags, the latest tag that was originally the same, or was associated with the version 2.10 or 2.11, that has now shifted to, or the latest tag was now put to the version 3, which means like if you were using Traefik, using the latest tag in Docker, and then update the last few days, or maybe last 1 or 2 weeks once this change was made, then you might run into the problem that you are upgrading from version 2 to version 3. And there are a few breaking changes that could even prevent Traefik from starting at all. So there are a few configuration settings and a few naming conventions they just changed in the version 3 that you should be aware of. By the way, this is the perfect example why I told you, or why I always try to tell you, don't use the latest tag in your Docker images, because this will automatically update to the next major release if it's possible. And that's not a good practice, especially if you see those migration guides that you would have to follow first. And you might run into problems that are not predictable. So this is better to do those updates manually, and maybe just, you could use something like the tag version 2. 10, right? Because then you get the minor updates, 2.10.1, 2.10.2, 3, and so on. You can update that. There's usually no breaking changes. But if you're migrating from version 2 to version 3 or a new major release in any application, there will be big changes you might be aware of. For example, there are a couple of changes that I needed to change on my configuration. For example, this one here is the swarm mode in the Docker provider. And I had this configuration setting in my config files, and this prevented my Traefik instances from starting at all. So I needed to change this. I needed to uncomment this line and remove this from my config. And actually, if you're using Docker Swarm, you will have to configure a new provider setting now, which is called the provider's swarm, instead of using the Docker provider with the swarm mode. So that is something that is pretty critical, but it's also very easy to change. So not a big deal, but you need to be aware of it. And also some other things like experimental configuration, like HTTP3 is not longer experimental. This is now officially supported. By the way, HTTP3, very interesting topic. It's going to have a lot of fundamental changes for the HTTP protocol. And maybe that's worth a separate video if I have time at some point, because it is really, really interesting. It doesn't sound like a big exciting change like the new Surface laptop or like the new Terraform version, but HTTP3 is a really interesting topic, at least for us network nerds and geeks, right? Because there are some pretty interesting changes in that protocol and it enhancing the speed a lot, right? Especially in scaled environments with different load balancers, IP address changes and stuff. HTTP3 is just adding so much. It's reducing a lot of the overhead and it's making your applications much faster than before. So yeah, remove that experimental thing from your configs if you have that, and you can now just use it as a usual settings in your router. For example, I don't know where it is. Here, the entry point configuration. So you can configure an entry point and enable HTTP3 on that entry point just normally without experimental features. Yeah, all right. So the next thing is, TLS CA optional. I think this is a setting that I hadn't used, so that has been removed. Another changes to the provider settings. This is mainly just like if you were using those specific providers. I haven't used them, so that was not a big deal for me. But there were some changes in the dynamic configuration as well. And some of those were giving me some headaches here. So, for example, the headers and headers regular expression matchers have been renamed to header and header regexp respectively. And the path prefix no longer uses regular expression to match path prefixes. So if you had a path prefix configured with a regular expression, you have to change this to query regular expression that has been introduced. And what I had a problem, if you had a host, for example, a host matcher, or a host regular expression matcher that matched, for example, a subdomain and something else, and you used multiple values in one matcher, that is not possible anymore. So the matcher is changed to a single value and you have to use logical operators. I don't really know if I can show you that right now, but it's like, let me quickly open VS Code. I can show you an example of that. All right, so let me just quickly connect to my production server, and this is where I changed the configuration. For example, in the teleport demo 1 config file, you can see there was a setting where I used the host regular expression matcher for the teleport demo 1 .server production 1 and anything before that. So all the subdomains before the teleport were also matched, and I had added them as multiple values to the host regular expression with a comma. So now you can't do this anymore, so that's why I uncommented this line, otherwise this web application didn't work at all. And I needed to add a host matcher for this domain, and combine this with a logical OR operator to the host regular expression. So this is small change, but it affected me. So this is why you need to be very careful migrating from one version to another and take care of those changes. Also, there's a pretty cool remediation that is also mentioned here in this blog post article, that you can enable the rule syntax of version 2 and then slowly start migrating one application after another. So you don't need to go through all of the configs if you have deployed like 30, 40, maybe 100 different applications. You can enable the rule syntax version 2 and then slowly go through this migration one by one. That's probably a good tip. Some other settings that have been removed. One thing that you might also be aware of when using Kubernetes is the Kubernetes CRDs that have been changed again. Yeah, it's a lot of work that you need to go through this. I don't want to go through this the whole time, but actually it's a lot of stuff that you need to be aware of. Well, it's actually, honestly, I talked about this with Traefik, because Traefik wanted me to cover this in a video, and I just said, look, I'm very upset about you making those changes, because I think, so why the hell do you make those changes, like renaming the headers to a header? There's no reason for you to do that, so why are you giving us headaches? And we're basically pushing back on, yeah, well, it's a major release, we're making some small changes here and there. But yeah, depending on how big your environment is, it can be a pain. So, yeah, but something you need to be aware of. Anyway, there is no hurry to upgrade to Traefik version 3. I mean, despite of HTTP 3, there is no big feature that you don't want to miss or something like that. So feel free to use the version 2 a few more months and then slowly start over migrating to the next version and avoid using the latest tag. That's the simplest way how you can do that. All right, so I need to hurry a bit through all of the other topics that I wanted to talk with you about. Luckily, those other topics aren't really big announcements. So, for example, Proxmox got a new version, the version 8.2. There's a pretty good blog post, like with all of the recent announcement of Proxmox. So there's a new version. They now support the Debian bookworm, but uses a newer Linux kernel, the 6.8 as stable default, similar to Ubuntu. Yeah, they also jumped on that Linux kernel 6.8, which is great that we have this support. And also they updated all the other components to, updated or latest versions. They also added a new tool for automated installations and the import wizard to migrate VMware ESXi guests to Proxmox VE. Honestly, I don't know what you think about this, but since Broadcom made this super aggressive move with ESXi, I see a lot of requests regarding Proxmox. I think this is just a birthday present for Proxmox. I think the developers of Proxmox, they are so happy now that Broadcom made this move, because it's giving them so many more customers, I suppose. So this is really, really crazy. By the way, also something that I just recently read. And I got on LinkedIn, this was a news that Veeam backup for Proxmox is now released, or is something in the works. I'm not using Veeam, so I'm not really I'm not really familiar with that, honestly, but I have seen that on LinkedIn popped up in the news. So they also say, like, Proxmox has rapidly gained popularity because of the recent changes Broadcom has done to ESXi. So I think, like, that's a great opportunity for a lot of people to switch to Proxmox. Honestly, I can't really talk about ESXi versus Proxmox because I haven't really used ESXi in the recent years, so I'm not aware of how does it work and so on. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, so you will see, like, Proxmox is gaining a lot of popularity. Actually, well, that's kind of the next thing that I feel kind of confirmed my own decisions, right? For example, like IBM buying HashiCorp, making sure that those tools are gaining more popularity. And that was exactly the tool that I've chosen for my infrastructure as code automation. So right decision. Proxmox, I fully invested into Proxmox. Doing anything on Proxmox also was the right decision, because the X6 got discontinued, or license changes happened to migrate a lot of people over to Proxmox. So I feel happy for my decisions, for my researching, that I've chosen the right tools to move on with. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's a good job, right? I'm sorry. Feels a bit arrogant, but anyway, I'm just happy that I don't need to migrate over to something else, right? Another thing, and that is kind of like a very, very interesting post, is I've seen on X about ZimaFor UI, and we need to talk about this. I'm actually preparing some testing development, and I will make a new video about this, but you need to be a bit patient with me, because that just popped on the news and I haven't put a lot of time into this. But I will, in the next 1 or 2 months, make a deep dive on this, or at least do a review on ZimaFor UI Premium, because as you can see, this is like they now start to support Terraform, OpenTofu, Ansible, Bash, and Pulumi. So I guess most of us will use Terraform or OpenTofu and Ansible. Those are kind of the tools that we're familiar with. And I know I just recently made a video about Kestra and how I'm automating my HomeLab with Kestra. But ZimaFor UI, I always thought, like, if they are just using Ansible, this is not the right tool for me, because they're not have enough flexibility. But if they start supporting Bash and Terraform, that gets a whole different story. So I can see this as a really nice add-on, but the biggest problem, it's not free. Yeah, so you need to pay $12 a month just for those features. There is like an open source version still existing, and this is kind of a weird offering. You see, the open source version, Ansible ZimaFor, is still free. It's open source, but it just does Ansible, right? And if you want Terraform and Bash, you have to buy the premium license, even as a home user, even for the self-hosted version. Honestly, I don't think it is a red flag, because I'm willing to pay $12 a month for an application that is great. So I think maybe this is like, I think like each and every open source tool or each and every HomeLab tool has to be open source and has to be free. I'm not against paid features if this adds more value, but we will see how good that is compared to an open source solution that is entirely free and does everything, like Kestra. Kestra supports like over 200-300 different plugins and does all of that stuff. But I think like ZimaFor could be the more simpler tool for people that don't like to familiarize with the Kestra environment, which might be a bit more complex. So ZimaFor seems to be like a straightforward alternative to that, and we will definitely take a look at this in a video. So yeah, that's another big news. If you want to try it out and tell me your opinion, feel free to do that. And I will jump on that train when I'm back from holidays, because I first want to relax a bit on the beach, and when I have more time, I will go into that. All right, let's also talk about UniFi got a new product. Honestly, I'm a bit upset about UniFi, because I talked to them. I made one video about their UniFi Express, and I told them, hey, I want more products. I want to test more. But they didn't send me anything, yeah. And I just see videos from other creators popping up on social media. I'm a bit, okay, so I would love to get my hands on this thing, right? And you can see it's even sold out. So yeah, maybe that has something to do with the influencer marketing campaign that they started. But anyway, that's kind of a pretty interesting product, like the Pro Max series. I just love this RGB and lighting on the switches. Really nice. You don't have a UniFi NAS. No, I don't have anything. I didn't get anything from UniFi the last week, so I'm a bit upset about it. But I'm pretty sure that is because I'm living in Germany, I'm living in Europe, and all the other US creators, they get this stuff shipped much faster. So you definitely also see this from other US creators talking about Apple products or anything else. Yeah, that's it. But anyway, I would love to get my hands on this thing, but I'm not really sure what exactly I would buy myself if I would choose a 16 PoE switch. I think that is a bit too low for me. I think I would need something like this year, the Pro Max, and then it's 1,300 euros, dollars, but euros will be even a bit more. Oh, that's a pretty big investment. So I think like my sofa switch is doing fine. So no hurry for me to upgrade. But it's really interesting to see that UniFi are pushing out more products and seems to be a great vendor too. So maybe at some day I will check it out. So, well, I have some other topics that I would love to cover, but I would need to rush through them, and I think those changes are really not so interesting. So I believe that was all that I wanted to touch on today. But again, if you have any news that pop up in the next days, send it to me on Discord. We will make a list. I will go through all of the other interesting and exciting news in 6 weeks. Once I'm back from holiday, once we had our regular live stream talk, and then maybe catch up on some of the stuff you should be aware of. All right, so that's it. I'm just, whoops. Just saw a black screen. I'm just thinking about maybe UniFi should rather focus on IPv6 support instead of stupid color LEDs. Yeah, Christoph, that's pretty similar to what I sometimes see at Sophos, right? When we're announcing new products, and I always see like those announcements as, product managers just like to jump on new shiny things, right? Because you need some headlines to promote products to the customers, right? So if you're selling a new switch that has IPv6 support, then everybody's bored and everybody's falling asleep and saying, IPv6. We had that for years, so it's not exciting, right? So you need some more exciting features. And what happens then is those those developer resources are only spent on those new shiny things to keep up with all of the other development that's happening in the industry. And developers are fully booked out. They have no time to work on the actual bugs that are existing, which is so sad. But I know this, it's sometimes happening at Sophos as well. And yeah, it takes time until those products get polished. By the way, I have also seen a similar development with any other vendors or any other products where people are just raging about, why don't you support this? Why don't you have that, right? And yeah, that's because product managers and marketing guys are jumping on those features that they believe bring them new customers instead of doing quality of life improvements for existing customers. That's a big problem, and I'm full against it because I believe it is important to focus first on quality of life improvements, so to make your existing customers happy. But from a selling perspective, from a sales perspective, it's not as exciting to keep revenue rates as renewal revenue rates the same as acquiring new customers, which is much more interesting for sales guys, because then you can say, we get a 5% increasement in new customer revenue, and everybody's happy about that. Instead, when you're just saying, we kept our numbers of renewal rates, everybody's like, So that's it. I think that's just how it works in business, and that's also the reason why there are so weird things existing, like they still don't add IPv6 support because it's maybe just a problem for 1 or 2% of their existing customers. But anyway, that's it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed those live streams talking about some news and updates in the tech space. Again, feel free to ask me questions on Discord. Send me some ideas for future news, or if I'm not aware of any changes that might happen in the next days, yeah, make me aware of it and we will go through in the next news live stream. Okay, guys, so I need to jump. Thank you so much for watching. It was really cool again. And yeah, I'll catch up with you in the next video and the next live stream in 4 weeks, right? Okay, guys, so thanks, and I talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. And yeah, thanks. I'm gonna have a nice vacation. Bye-bye, everyone.